Hey everyone, you just joined in this mid-conversation. Allison and I were talking about how we're masochists who feel guilty about doing like non-work stuff. But I had a little bit of free time. I'm like, should I rest or should I talk to Allison? And then I messaged her and I had a feeling she'd be masochisty like me. And she said, well, sure, let's talk. And the framing that Allison really wanted to talk about today is who should we trust when it comes to the Epstein scandal and all the information that's coming out? And he caught us in mid-conversation where Allison she was exactly what she's talking about what I wanted to talk to her about because the latest news is Todd Blanche. These people are so incompetent. Who is Donald Trump's personal attorney, associate attorney general, is meeting with and talking to Glenn Maxwell. Glenn Maxwell, who, folks, is no victim. Abused women along with Jeffrey Epstein, groomed women and recruited women. And we're having an interesting. I don't know if you've seen this conversation on Twitter openly between Todd Blanche and Maxwell's attorney. And let's see what type of quid pro quo. I'm sure if Maxwell says anything, I'm sure we should totally trust it. And then also the DOJ right now, right? It's really interested in investigating Obama over the Russia hoax. Totally not a distraction. And then Pam Bondi, Attorney General, said, "Oh, they're going to release some pertinent grand jury information." And so the water is about to get muddied real quick, folks, because this is a dam that is breaking. We have Wall Street Journal. Oh, you know, that leftist rag Wall Street Journal going in for the kill. You got Nick Fuentes, the Nazi, going in for the kill. You got Fox going in for the kill. This story is not going away. And a poll just came out that 80% of Americans across the board are interested in this story right now. This is the story. So the water's
89.
about to get muddy. Wow. Yeah, like everyone, like this is the story. So the question is, who should we trust in the next couple of weeks? Who should we not trust? What should we be watching out for? And what are the questions we should be asking? And the perfect person to answer my questions is Allison. Allison, I yield the floor to you.
Well, I was starting to think about with this meeting with Blanche and Maxwell. First of all, she's a known liar. It's why the DOJ wouldn't let her out of prison in the first place. They did. She had committed perjury, and DOJ had said that in the filings. And they didn't charge the perjury because 1001 charges are kind of hard to get. So, they went with the slam dunk, which was the sex trafficking. And they got it. Like, she went away for 20 years, but she's a known liar. And so is Donald Trump, which is weird, by the way. He goes out on TV and they said, "Oh, are you going to pardon her?" And he's like, "I'm allowed to. I don't know yet. Maybe." He wouldn't discount the idea. He lies about everything, yet he can't just bring himself to say, "No, I would never pardon a sex trafficker." Like, he can't bring himself to say that, probably because he's made her a pretty sweet deal. We don't know yet. But I imagine it when something like, Todd Blanche saying to her, "Trump will commute your sentence on his way out the door in 2029.
There you
As
go.
long as you say that he's in there, but he never touched anyone. He just hung around with him, and then he ditched him when he found out what kind of guy he was. So say that." And then definitely say Bill Clinton was in there, which the Wall Street Journal, in their third story now, has said he's in there along with a host of other people in the birthday book, right? So, and then I imagined Ghislaine Maxwell going, "Oh, he'll pardon me on the way out the door or commute my sentence on the way out, but I heard he's not leaving. I got a Trump 2028 hat in the mail. What do you mean on his way out the door?" And then just Todd Blanche be like, "No, I promise, just got a bunch of liars sitting in a room lying." But I was wondering, like, what would convince me of whatever came out of that meeting? And I'm like, maybe a video, like if they videotaped their interaction. But how do we know when the video started and when it stopped? Because they've already gotten in trouble for scrubbing 3 minutes out of the Jeffrey Epstein jail video. So what if they have the actual conversation with her and then say, "Okay, now we're going to start our conversation now," and then hit the start button and record the whole thing? I'm like, I just wouldn't trust anything that Ghislaine Maxwell has to say, and no one should, if we're being honest with ourselves. But the problem with MAGA and cult members is they're looking for that reason to be cool with it. You know what I mean? It's a confirmation bias. So we can't trust, in my opinion, anything that comes out of the Ghislaine Maxwell Todd Blanche meeting. We can't
Absolutely.
trust anything that comes out of the Department of Justice. I mean, in my story, that they were told to scrub Donald Trump from these files. So when we see subpoenas coming from a subcommittee on House Oversight for Department of Justice files, I'm like, I don't care about what the Department of Justice has. This Department of Justice. What I want to see is the birthday book, which is in the hands of private lawyers at the Epstein estate, and grand jury testimony that is redacted to remove victims' names by a court, by a judge. And we probably won't get that either, or we probably won't get that. So we'll see what the Republicans in the subcommittee do. If I were a Republican, I would be totally fine, feeling safe to vote for a Department of Justice release of the files, because I know they would be scrubbed of the names that this administration wants removed from them. So I'd say, I'll vote to subpoena that. Now we'll see if Ro Khanna goes back or Garcia goes back and gets them to vote to subpoena this birthday book, for example, which doesn't get whitewashed by the Department of Justice, and see if they're willing to play on that. And by the way, Comer hasn't sent that subpoena to the Department of Justice yet, the one that they voted on. So we'll see if that even happens. We have to trust Jim Comer on that. So.
Oh yeah, that MAGA Jim Comer, and also I want to remind people because there's just an avalanche of news that earlier in the week, Monday, House Speaker Mike Johnson threatened to shut down the entire House until September, instead of actually having a vote to release the files. So, all right. Should we release the files? Let's have a vote. And he does not have confidence that he has the backing of Republicans. So he said, I'm just going to shut down the House for a month and a half. Folks, if you have nothing to hide, you would not threaten to shut down the House for a month and a half, right? The fact is that this is a cover up. And I have no problem saying that because another Wall Street Journal article, the second one that dropped, revealed that Donald Trump was informed by Pam Bondi, his attorney general, in late May, that his name was in the Epstein files evidence documents. Call it what you want. For the purposes of the conversation, we'll just call it the files. And then a week later, if you all remember, Elon Musk, once he had his big tiff with Donald Trump on June 5th, on his broke down, Twitter site, which is now inundated with Nazis. What did he say? Donald Trump is in the files. It's been about 2 months, which means for the past 2 months, this administration has lied to its base, has lied to the American public, and engaged in a massive cover up. Because in July, if you remember, Allison, when Donald was asked by ABC News whether or not he was informed about the names, he lied. He said, Pam Bondi, she's just doing a great job, Pam Bondi, right? And the fact that they're willing to shut down the House, the fact that now I completely agree with your assessment. That's exactly what I said yesterday. That if, and I hate thinking like a supervillain, but if I'm Todd Blanche and if I'm Donald Trump, I'd go to Gillen. I would say quid pro quo. That's exactly what you said. I would say, okay, you come out and you publicly tell the story where you say Trump and Epstein were friends, but I was with Epstein. I was his right-hand woman. And guess what? Donald Trump just partied. He didn't molest any girls, but you know who did? Bill Clinton. And I'd also give MAGA Bill Gates, and I'd throw in another name, just libs or Democrats, right? And then I'd get my sentence commuted. But this is where, and I wanted to ask you this. If I'm Ghislaine Maxwell, and if I'm Epstein, I think Epstein had this, which explains the money trail, because that's another thing that people aren't talking about. How was this guy able to stay alive, essentially blackmailing some of the most powerful people? I would have, and this is why I'm so happy I never got power, because I probably would become a supervillain. I would I would have a dead woman switch or a dead man switch, meaning that if I somehow was to die, oh, I don't know, fall off my balcony, or I don't know, fall off my yacht. Somehow my death would trigger the release of incriminating evidence and files. Just curious, like if you're in Galen's mind right now and you're her attorney, how would you negotiate this with Blanche and Trump, like you said, who are grifters and complete liars?
I don't know that she necessarily has a choice. I mean, she's in prison, right? And she wants out. And so any promise to get out But I like the dead man switch idea. Like, all right, well, if I don't get a pardon by January 19th, 2029, I'm going to release all these files. Something to that effect, because she does hold a bunch of cards. The shocking thing, Waj, is just the incompetence of the cover up. Like,
Yep.
if you were smart and you were gonna cover this up, first of all, if you're Trump, just say that tell the public you're not gonna pardon her, even if you are. Just lie. Like, you lie your face off all the time. Like, why not right in this instance? Mike Johnson, let them vote for a subpoena. Let it happen, because the DOJ is gonna scrub everything of the stuff that you don't want out to the public.
Yep.
Get that in place before you do dumb stuff like this to make yourself look like you're obviously covering stuff up. Don't fire the key prosecutor in in
Maureen
in,
Comey.
in the Epstein and Maxwell cases in the middle of this. Like, why are you so dumb? You're too dumb to villain. Like like
That's the quote. You're too dumb to supervillain.
evil supervillains are geniuses, right? Lex Luthor. Are we going to Addis Ababa, Mr. Luthor? He's with all the books, the ladder. I mean, super genius. And that's the downfall here. Now we've got a Mike Myers situation instead of a Lex Luthor situation. It's idiocy. Um,
Well, even Todd Blanche, did you see how Todd Blanche in his request, instead of putting his current title, he put his old title as attorney of Donald Trump? Like,
I just
they're
don't
just
think
so
he.
reckless.
I don't think he updated his ECF information. Um, Again, just incompetence. Like, well, I don't. You could do so much better at this. I shouldn't give them ideas, but
But the thing is, someone said don't give them ideas, but this is the stuff that they've already done, folks. They've already done this, which is why I do believe that no matter how much they try to. So this is my take, Allison, because I'm a masochist like you, and I've been following the right wing swamp. And I was talking to Mehdi about this. Like, we understand right wing conspiracies and talking points where they come from, so that when normies say certain words, we're really quickly able to trace it, right? And QAnon has been a conspiracy that has radicalized the MAGA base for 10 years. And they were promised, Allison, that when Donald Trump and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and Dan Bongino got in power, that Donald Trump, as the outsider, was the only one capable of cleaning the swamp, draining the swamp, and revealing the establishment and the deep state. And that will be revealed through releasing the Epstein files. So now they have been primed for a decade, a decade. Now it's Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, who are part of the deep state. And again, because they didn't really think this one through, Donald Trump is all over the file. So obviously he can't release it. So he's throwing chum to his base for the last 3 months. Here's some chum. Here's some chum. Here is a Mike Cernovich and Libs of TikTok coming out with big binders. And then here's Pam Bondi on TV bragging about having the files on her desk. Are you happy, MAGA? Oh shit, you want more? Oops. Obama. How about Obama? Rosie O'Donnell. Here are the files about MLK. And the base is like, no, we want the Epstein files. And I feel like they've effed up so much just in the past 2 weeks that no matter what they release, sure, it'll muddy the waters. But I'm at this point, Allison, where I think the base in itself and the majority of Americans, like you said, 89% of Americans are following the story. They want all the evidence. They want all the files. They want the videos. They want the tapes. They want the interviews. If I want the stuff, like, I'm not even a conspiracy theorist, and I'm like, yo, show me everything. And I don't care who is in it. I don't care if Clinton's in it. I don't care if Bill Gates is in it. Bring everything to light, Allison. And if
Mhm.
I'm here, I'm thinking MAGA, because MAGA is the one leading this. If I'm like this, a normie, MAGA must be like, yo, I'm not satiated by your redactions. Your take, Allison.
Well, there's another force at work here, isn't there? Even if they come out with a Ghislaine Maxwell testimony that satisfies some of the base or the base to say, okay, that's all we wanted to hear was that Donald Trump didn't touch little girls and he was just partying because partying's rad, or whatever. The other force at work is Rupert Murdoch. Um, I don't feel like there's a deal there. I don't think this is a controlled opposition. Do you know what I mean? I I
Mm.
I think that now not only does Trump have to contend with satisfying his base, but the whole purpose of satisfying his base is to stay in power. But what if Murdoch and J.D. Vance and Peter Thiel don't want him to be there anymore?
I completely agree. That's exactly what I just said to Danielle.
That's a bigger force to be reckoned with than I think, 19% of the population that are MAGA. Uh, if I have a feeling if Rupert Murdoch and Peter Thiel want you gone, it's inevitable. So we'll see how that ends up turning out. I would love to see some investigative journalists or stories, perhaps maybe from the Wall Street Journal, about remember when the Trump White House reached out and said, don't publish that story or I'll sue you. I would love to hear stories about him reaching out to say, let's make a deal on you guys not doing a coup to get me out of here. I can't help but think that that's what's going on. Murdoch loves Vance. That's a mistake. Yeah, you'll completely fracture MAGA if you oust Donald Trump. He's the head of the snake, right? But maybe they think they have some sort of a better Republican Party future without Donald Trump. He signed the billionaire bailout bill. He signed the crypto bills. They don't need him anymore.
That's
He
right.
is now useless to them. He still had some use after his first term, right? Especially with the Supreme Court letting him off the hook for his crimes and possibly being able to get back into office. He still had some use, but I don't know that he has use anymore. So we can talk
I'm
all
with
day
I,
about
I, I'm
MAGA
with you,
trusting,
Elton.
but if you're going up if in fact Murdoch and Thiel and Vance want you gone, and that whole cabal of people want you out, I don't know how you fight back against that.
Let me piggyback because you and me are on this. We haven't talked for a couple of days. You and me, ever since we talked about your fantastic reporting. Go back, folks, and look at Allison's great report where she got FBI agents and people in the FBI office under conditions of anonymity who
Oh,
said that they,
scoop the New York Times, by the way. Did you see they came out with the exact same story yesterday, 5 days
yeah,
after I did, with no credit?
5 days. Yeah, at 5 days ago, we had Allison on where the FBI agents reached out to her and confirmed that they were tasked to find Donald Trump's name in the Epstein documents, and they put it all in one Excel sheet that's viewable by everyone in the department.
The unit.
Uh,
Mhm.
in the unit. And apparently, it wasn't for the purposes of truth and justice. They realized, oh, it's for the purposes of protecting Donald Trump. And Allison came up with that scoop 5 days ago, 5 days ago, and we talked about it. But I haven't talked to you since then. And for the last 2 days, Allison, actually, no, for the last couple of days, we're in the same wavelength. I'm looking at what's happening, and I just want to connect the dots, right? Last week, Wall Street Journal, folks, because I know it's a lot, but we try to keep the receipts here. Last week, it was Wall Street Journal. Oh, that flaming leftist communist rag owned by Rupert Murdoch, that despite under threats of Donald Trump and MAGA, went ahead and released an article detailing an alleged letter that Donald Trump wrote Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday. Then you fast forward a couple of days. It was the Wall Street Journal, I believe only 2 days ago, that dropped another article revealing that Pam Bondi, his attorney general, in May told Donald Trump that he's in the Epstein files, which means, again, Donald Trump and the administration have been lying to us for about 2 months.
And
And then,
Kash Patel told other top government officials that Donald Trump was in the file.
oh, you gossipy little bee, Kash Patel, thank you so much. Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, told people, hey, you know who's in the Epstein files? Donald Trump. Genius. Thank you, Cash Patel. Maybe don't have, conspiracy theorists with no law enforcement background as to be the head of your FBI. But I digress. And then yesterday, it was the Wall Street Journal, yet again, that published names that were also in this book that Glenn Maxwell had compiled for Epstein's 50th birthday, which, and I'm going to talk about some of these names with you, include some heavy duty billionaires, right? People like Leslie Wexner, who, by the way, is still alive. And I really think Leslie Wexner has a lot of answers to how Jeffrey Epstein, I don't know, got all this money. New York Times now, and I just want to say this, folks. I think it's interesting for people to watch. I've been saying it. I just said it with Danielle. This information has been public for 20 years. People, if they wanted to, could have dug deep. Corporate media could have done the work. Democrats could have done the work, right? It was independent journalists who were on it. And the reason why they're doing this is because MAGA gave them the permission. And we have affirmative action for conservatives in our institutions. And MAGA is the one leading the way. And New York Times is now piggybacking, right? And now you get all the MSNBC is piggybacking, right? Because MAGA is the one that's after. It's Rupert Murdoch. Now, Donald Trump earlier this week tried a major distraction. Tulsi Gabbard came out with Caroline Levitt and talked about Obama doctoring the files, right? That showed that Russia interfered in the election. We could discount that later. But the same day that Tulsi Gabbard tried to run interference on Fox, Fox publishes an op-ed by Ned Price calling it a major distraction. And then last week, J.D. Vance, it was reported, just happens to meet Rupert Murdoch. So, you all still with me? J.D. Vance was groomed by Peter Thiel. J.D. Vance, his entire life, the person who has funded him and funded his companies is Peter Thiel. He was funded by Peter Thiel, then becomes a senator, then becomes the VP. Who gives J.D. Vance as a candidate to Donald Trump as vice president? Peter Thiel. J.D. Vance and Donald Trump didn't know each other before then, right? Peter Thiel is part of the PayPal South African broligarchy. You know, Elon Musk, Thiel, David Sachs, and a few others. They're all these bros with roots to PayPal in South Africa. Also, eugenicists and techno-fascists, right? Elon Musk's has a break with Donald Trump. June 5th says Trump is in the Epstein files. Fast forward a month and a half. Now you got J.D. Vance meeting with Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch, 3 articles plus a deflection in Fox to derail Donald Trump's attempt to distract. And we just found out yesterday that J.D. Vance all of a sudden does a backtrack on Twitter, responds to Chris, the MSNBC host, Chris Hayes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and all of a sudden there's a strange backtrack on the files. So thank you for my rant, Allison. But
What's the backtrack on the files?
Hold on, I'm going to show you exactly what he said. Give me 1 second. 1 second. I got you. This is what he said. Tennessee Holler did a good job where after calling the Wall Street Journal, quote, complete and utter bullshit, J.D. Vance now claims he meant it's bogus that they didn't show them the letter with a naked lady drawing. Trump allegedly wrote Epstein before they published. Now he tells Chris Hayes he has, quote, no idea if it exists. Allison.
Oh, that's quite a walk back, isn't it? Yeah, when you bring in Thiel and Musk and Murdoch and Vance and all of their connections, it seems really interesting. It seems like a coup. To me.
I think that's a great word. I think this is the coup of the coup. Like they did the coup already, and now there's a Murdoch coup.
It's a coup within a coup. It's coup inception. And have you noticed, by the way, the just as an aside, this particular administration is trying to wear out the word coup. Everything's a coup, everything's treason, everything's insurrection, so that those words lose meaning. We saw it with the collusion back in the Mueller report days. It's reflexive control. But aside from that, I think I'm really interested to see what the Wall Street Journal and J.D. Vance do here, and what ends up happening, and how quickly it ends up happening. I'm assuming all sorts of pillars and safety nets need to be in place before they make their move, or get whoever they need to get. I don't know how they're going to do it. 25th Amendment, Congress. So far, Mike Johnson and Congress still seem to be on the Trump side of things, but Murdoch is an extremely powerful person, as are Thiel and Elon Musk. So we'll see what ends up happening. They also kind of have to take into consideration that their big giant money machine, Elon Musk, doesn't necessarily work for elections anymore. So they also have to take that into consideration. And Musk is starting this new party, the America Party, which is just I think a modern day Nazi party.
Yep.
But I did just get this. I don't know if you've been watching your feed, but there's a banner flying over the federal courthouse in Tennessee where Todd Blanche is meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell, and the banner says, Trump and Bondi are protecting predators. huge banner
Wow.
over the courthouse. Now, I don't know if that's a MAGA that flew that banner or somebody else, but I think that's pretty interesting too. I How long do you think this would take? I mean, if this is what's happening, if they're trying to push Donald Trump out because they don't need him anymore, and I mean, let's be honest, he is an auto pen, which is why he's accusing Biden of using the auto pen. He's just a rubber stamp for all the things that Thiel and Musk want to do, and the oligarchs. So, how long do you think it would take if that is in fact the plan? Like, what do you think might happen next?
So I said earlier this week, for people who've been following, that Murdoch is sharpening the knives, right? Because I've just been following this. And the fact that Wall Street Journal, Allison, under threat from Trump, decided to still publish that first article. And then when Trump's suing them now for $10 billion, or I think it's $20 billion, they said, that's fine. We stand by our reporting. That's when I said Murdoch is sharpening the knives.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, I've come to the conclusion that he has sharpened the knives, and now I think he's in a straight up stabby motion. I agree with you that I think they want him out, because this is now. See, the first one was like last week. I was like, they're testing the waters. Then the second article dropped, Allison. Then the third one dropped yesterday. And then they ran interference on the interference with the Ned Price piece on Fox. Then Elon Musk, he's breaking with Donald Trump. Then you see the J.D. Vance meeting. And I know J.D. Vance is Peter Thiel's boy, who also follows Curtis Yarvin, techno-fascists, all of them. So I believe, if you're asking me right now, I think the knives are sharpened. I think the knives are in stabby motion. I think they're done with Donald Trump. And the reason why I think they're done with Donald Trump is I'm also reminded, Allison, that they never liked him in the first place, folks. You have to remember, the establishment hated Donald Trump. We're old enough to remember with our gray hair, because we covered it, that they did everything in their power to destroy them. And what it did Donald Trump, he steamrolled over the establishment, right? Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
They've hated him. They hate him. I could tell you in D.C., when I was at CNN, the overwhelming majority of the right-wing folks who I had to come on and debate with, they told me in the green room they hate this guy. But that's how their bread was buttered. There was only two true believers, that guy Paris Denard and the other guy Jeffrey Lord. Everyone else hated him, okay? So I think now the time has come. They see an aging, decrepit vulgarian who can barely stay awake with cankles, no offense to cankles. I think they realize that, he pissed off Musk, and Musk is now saying, I'm the one who got you elected, mother effer, and I still want some answers to that statement. Like, how, buddy? How?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is Murdoch and the oligarchy saying, and I'm going to use a bad word here, but I'm just putting my villain dialogue. Bitch, you thought you were in control? No, we're the ones who got you in power. We're the ones. We're the ones. Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and the oligarchy. Who do you think you are, right? And so now they see the one kryptonite, because Elon Musk knows the base. Elon Musk is not stupid. Why did he tweet? And I said this in June. Oh, he's going after Trump. He talked about Epstein because he knows the base, right? He knows the base. So to me, if I have to put a timeline on it, it's August. It's about to turn August. All right, I'm going to go ahead and say it. If I'm wrong, I'll eat halal crow. I'm thinking October, November. I'm thinking, though, it's already set in motion. I think this Epstein, Allison, these three drops in a week, you can't walk this back. And going back to your point, because I was listening to you, what could be the potential quid pro quo? What could be Donald Trump became the president? Okay, what do you want? They're like, we don't need anything. We got the BBB. We got the Genius Act. We got J.D. Vance as VP. What can you give me, old man?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's done. I think let's just see how this plays out. That's my take.
I'll put my name on your product. It'll be great. Yeah.
Yeah, you need a diaper. I'm releasing diapers. Could put names on diapers. I believe exactly, real Pambo. Wheels are in motion. I give it August, I say by October, November, because and the last thing I'll say on this is Donald Trump is also not looking good. He ain't looking sharp. He's an old man. So I don't know how much stress and pressure he can take. So I'm saying 3-4 months. That's mine. I'm going to say it. 3-4 months. That's my prediction.
Okay.
Allison.
Well, What's interesting is something that you said reminded me when Musk first started coming after Donald Trump. Well before that, George Conway had put out on Blue Sky, who do you think is going to win the battle when Trump and Musk collide? Because they're huge egos and they're going to collide, right? Who do you think is going to win out? And I said, it depends on who has the Epstein dirt. That's what I
Mm,
said. Literally before any of this Epstein stuff came back to light again. And then I said, and if they both have the dirt, then it's going to be who has more money, which is Elon Musk. Um, I don't know necessarily that they'll do this that quickly. I think maybe they're playing a long game and they're going to replace Donald Trump with the election that happens in 2028.
mm.
Um, why not wait? What's a couple years to make it look legit, as opposed to making it look like a coup or anything like that. But if the idea, I feel like the idea is to completely get MAGA to just give up on Trump and not want Trump anymore and move them to someone else, right? Because I think that Rupert Murdoch knows that if you fracture MAGA and get rid of Trump, you cut the head off the snake, it's done, it's over. But if you get everybody to move away from Trump to your new shiny thing, you get MAGA, the cultists, to accept a new leader of their cult, then you have a much easier time replacing the old leader. That's kind of my 2 cents on it. I think
I think you're far more. I agree with that as well. The reason why I say 4 months, I'm factoring in Trump's health, and again, it's just let's see. I feel like they know. I feel he's much. I've been saying this for a while. I feel they know he's much sicker than he lets on. He's much. He just doesn't look right to me, Allison. Right? He's
well,
79
that's
years
the other
old.
thing too. Them actually coming out and admitting that he has a health problem. Put that on the pile of things that looked like Trump's on his way out, because they never admit to that, right?
Yeah, so exactly. I think the stress, the pressure, the piling on, because this is not just usually, I might meet you somewhere in the middle because yours is a much more pragmatic, like you'd make a good supervillain. Yours is a much more pragmatic, long term, like, let me also, give me plausible deniability. But Rupert Murdoch's like 832 years old. And he probably realizes like this is a race to meet the Grim Reaper, and I want to take Donald Trump out before I meet my creator. Um, the fact that they've come out in succession, Allison, like bang, 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 right? Like this is like they have the goods. Someone's leaking. They have the goods. And I was talking to Lev, and he says there's more information. There's just going to be more and more and more coming out. And you mentioned in your reporting, you have FBI agents of that division who have seen these files. What's to keep from some of them from leaking, right? There's just so much there. And now finally you have Democrats doing something they should have done a long time ago, which is following the money trail. And Senator Wyden, when he starts investigating, he has a really, really good track record. And I want to ask you about this, Allison, because, I've kind of dipped in and out of Epstein. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I always thought it was all but shady. But I did this tweet yesterday, which went viral on Twitter and on the post on Blue Sky, where uh, Leslie Wexner, who is still alive, Leslie Wexner, CEO of Victoria's Secret, multi-billionaire. Folks, Leslie Wexner's name was one of the dozens of names that was in the book yesterday, the birthday book that Glenn compiled. Did you know that Leslie Wexner, two factoids, gave his entire power of attorney to Jeffrey Epstein? Also, Leslie Wexner gave, and this is just, I know you know the answer, but folks, there's the $77 million townhouse in Manhattan where Epstein, did a lot of his dirty work, where Epstein lived. It was like the crown jewel in Manhattan, $77 million townhouse. Do you know how much money he sold it to Epstein for? Wexner? That was Wexner's.
Mm, yeah.
He gifted Epstein a $77 million townhouse. So the question I have for you, Allison, and I'm no conspiracy theorist, why would a man who's a brilliant CEO, a multi-billionaire, give power of attorney to Jeffrey Epstein to control essentially his financial assets as he's alive and not mentally incapacitated? And furthermore, out of the kindness of his heart, give a $77 million New York City, Manhattan townhouse to Epstein as a gift for zero?
Same reason Leon Black gave Epstein $150 million and then bailed out Jared Kushner's 666 Fifth Avenue building with the help of Qatar. Probably along the same lines. And then when Leon Black was asked, he was like, "Well, yeah, that's what he earned for he saved me $2 billion in taxes. So that I gave him $150 million." Everyone's like, "Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
sure, buddy." Same reason.
Yeah, quid pro quo. God is here. Hello, God. God said that pedocracy is real. I like that, the pedocracy. Wyden is now following the money. I believe the money trail will expose a lot of these links, give us more answers. Several people have said that there's also foreign countries involved. It seems more and more likely. Sometimes, folks, in order to be an asset of a country, you don't have to necessarily be recruited, but a foreign country then uses you as an influencer asset, right? I will not be surprised, Allison, if we have links to both Israel and Russia.
Mm.
Ehud Barak, who was the former prime minister of Israel, also the former head of IDF, visited Epstein in New York multiple times, folks. Multiple times. Ghislaine Maxwell's father was a spy, also died under mysterious circumstances. Also, a name, because I would drag this mother effer, Bill Barr's father. Allison, I want to ask Bill Barr, why did your dad hire Jeffrey Epstein to teach at this prestigious New York university, even though he was a college dropout and had no credentials? And even after it was revealed after a year that he was inappropriately behaving with these young girls, why did Alan Greenberg of Wall Street all of a sudden invite Jeffrey Epstein, who had no qualifications to work in Wall Street?
Yeah, big question, right? And there is, by the way, proof that Israel, not necessarily Mossad, but Israel was involved, and Russia too. I was going back and listening to some old Mueller, She Wrote episodes, and in 2019, August of 2019, maybe July, there was an episode of Mueller, She Wrote called Flynn is a Co-Conspirator. Starting at about the 15-minute mark, we talk for about 12 minutes about those two countries and their involvement and the proof of their involvement. So there's a lot we already know. A lot of this has to do with the journalist you just had on, and of course Julie K. Brown at the Miami Herald.
Vicky Ward and Julie Brown, yeah.
Vicky Ward, who exposed all of this. We picked it up and credited it and ran with it on the Mueller, She Wrote podcast and talked about all of it. But it's all there. It's always been there. And it's just that MAGA didn't want to hear it until Trump himself fanned the flames of this conspiracy, of this pedocracy, as somebody so gracefully put it.
God. That was God. Well done, God.
Go, God's here?
Yeah.
Hey, God. What's up? I saw your live with God, by the way. That was good.
That was a lot of fun.
Anyway, it's the web is huge. I mean, people used to send me that photo from Always Sunny in Philadelphia with Charlie with the cigarette and the murder board, but they would like put my head on it, like it's the ties are so deep, and all roads lead to Russia, right? Russia was right. We'll take down the United States without firing a single shot.
Painful. So painful.
And here we are.
I have a final question, and I think I'm going to title this episode "Too Dumb to Supervillain." Fantastic Allison Gill quote, and I'll put it in quotes. For the 1,200 people and nearly 1,300 people who've tuned in, I've been talking to Allison for the past 40 minutes, and we were talking about the connections, the threads, and originally we were talking about who should we trust when it comes to this evolving Epstein scandal, and the conversation moved on to the recklessness and incompetence of the Trump administration, that they can't even hide their cover-up. And then it moved on to what Allison and I agree with. I'm glad Allison agrees with me. The coup within a coup. I completely agree with you, Allison. I've been saying for the last 2 days now. I've been saying for a week that Murdoch has been sharpening the knives. Yesterday around this time is when I was confident to say that their knives are sharpened. Now they're in stabby motion. And I think we should be careful what we wish for, right? Because I do believe, and we've been saying this for a while, that J.D. Vance is the heir apparent. He's their reek, right? But we should be careful what we wish for in both ways, Allison. For those who say yes, take out Trump, it's okay. JD Vance will be in power. I say it might be worse because I do not underestimate Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and Dave Sachs, true supervillains. At the same time, from the MAGA point of view and the oligarchy point of view, be careful what you wish for because JD Vance is not respected by MAGA at all.
No. No,
Your
but if
take on this?
they can get another 19% that can back him, that's all they need.
Do you think they can? Do you think they can? If Trump goes, can they consolidate around JD Vance?
I think they're trying. I think they're trying. I mean, that seems kind of obvious to me with all of the, at least Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal and the Elon Musk stuff, and Musk starting his own party. I think they're floating some trial balloons with that to see if they can.
And so my take on this, folks, is I don't think they can. This is not to say it won't be utter destruction for the country, and not to say there won't be massive damage, not to say that there won't be an attempt. Having followed MAGA like a masochist for a while, I do not think no matter what they do, they can rehabilitate JD Vance. JD Vance to me is like what I said about Ron DeSantis. I took a risk and I said if I'm wrong, I'll eat halal crow. I said Ron DeSantis is a wet noodle who will wither under the spotlight. And that's what happened. And I don't think JD Vance, I think JD Vance is smarter than DeSantis. He has the backing of the wealthiest people on earth, but I don't think he has enough of the backing of MAGA. And this is where I say again, an opening for the Democrats. If and only if, Allison, the Democratic establishment is willing to let go of the nut, the acorn, stop sucking at the teat of billionaires. The message that seems to resonate again and again and again with a majority of folks, whether they be Republicans or libertarians or Democrats or progressives, is reformation. The majority versus the elite, the majority versus the 1%. F the billionaires. Go after the billionaires. Make the billionaires the enemy. And if you make the billionaires the enemy, it also weakens Thiel, Musk, and Vance. Do you think the Democrats, who have still not endorsed Zoran Mamdani, will finally come out and realize that it's the 2025 and no longer 20th century, and maybe, oh, maybe Nancy Pelosi, Epstein is a bread and butter issue?
Mm. Well, somebody brought up a pretty good point with me about Pelosi is that something she was actually very good at least with working with AOC and the amazing work that they did together during the Biden administration, was to make sure that the tent stayed big. And so you need a messenger to be like, we need to focus on kitchen table issues. And then you need a messenger to be like, we need to F the oligarchy and the A and take our country back. You need both of that to keep that expanded tent of the Democratic Party. So I think that might be what's going on there. But I do have glimmers of hope here and there. I saw that Hakeem Jeffries put out, he's hiring a new social media manager to help consult on viral moments and things like that, which is something that we've been trying to get the old guard Democrats to do for quite a while. So those kinds of things give me hope. Also, I think the Democrats are doing a really good job pushing the Epstein files issue. Now, I would like to see them tie this in to the oligarchy, because that's
Yes.
what it is. When you're talking about the Epstein cover-up, you are talking about covering up the bad behavior of billionaires and millionaires and trying to put cracks into the oligarchy. It's all one and the same.
There you
I
go.
need to see those messages merge, and that's what I'll be looking for going into the next election cycle, the midterms at least.
Folks, this has been a conversation with Allison. She's a trooper. We're both masochists. I literally messaged her at the last second and said, hey, you want to join me? I had a free hour because there was a cancellation. And I'm like, should I rest? No. Why would I do that? Let me talk to Allison. And we had no notes. We just jumped in because I know Allison has the goods. And that's the strength of having a great conversation partner and an interview subject. When they're smart, and they know their stuff, you just press play on them and you sit back and listen. Allison, can you please shamelessly promote yourself?
Right now, I would just love it if everybody subscribed to my Substack. Pardon me, I'm losing my voice. I'm doing so many of these. Excuse me. Subscribe to my Substack. It's the breakdown It's free to subscribe. If you're able, if you have the means, you can support it financially, but all the content's free. There's nothing behind a paywall, because that's how I roll. And also, if you've never listened to the Daily Beans podcast, give it a try. It's like this week is the 6th anniversary of the Daily Beans podcast. And
Oh, great.
thank you. And I would really appreciate it if I would love it if you would just open up your podcast player, give the Daily Beans a try, see if you like it. The way that we've set it up is so that you don't lose your mind, you don't have a breakdown. That's why my Substack's called The Breakdown. I want to break this down, the news, for you without making you have a breakdown. There's swearing. We are progressive. We're all are welcome. It's a wonderful community. We are the record holders for grassroots fundraising for Swing Left. I found that out yesterday.
Hey, great.
Our listeners are just incredible, wonderful, amazing people. It's a great community if you're looking to connect with people so that you don't feel so alone, so that you can't be gaslit, so that you don't feel crazy. So just give it a shot. It's free, like all my other stuff. And it's wherever you get your podcasts. And Waj, the way I've broken it down is at first you get all the headlines. Then we break some of them down. Then we do a good news segment.
That's great.
With listener submitted good news. So you leave kind of on an up note. And then we have great interviews with folks like E. Jean Carroll. And I just really, it's my, what's that word? Magnum opus. Daily Beans is my magnum opus. So please just give it a shot if you haven't before.
It's fantastic. It's your daily politics with colorful swear words, humor, and some a dollop of hope. This has been the Left Hook. Like Allison's Mueller, she wrote, we are gluttons for punishment, which is why we have kept no paywalls. Everything is for free, but we still have bills to pay, so we depend on the kindness of strangers. If you can, please become a free subscriber to Mueller, she wrote. Just subscribe, share the good news. If you have a few bucks, send them our way. If you have a few bucks and can only choose one, give it to Allison. She's doing the better work. Come back to me when you have some money. And her podcast is the Daily Beans podcast. And folks, in 1 minute, I'm going to have John Gluck on. I know John's, hey, John, I saw you. John Gluck is a fantastic story real quick. Let me just pitch John Gluck for a second. John Gluck was my editor at Medium when I was a columnist at Medium. He's the one who had a little bit of money. He said, Waj, I want you to write. And I was writing 8 columns a month. It was Medium and Daily Beast. And John, I had no idea. John didn't tell me this. John was diagnosed with cancer 20 years ago. He was given a year to live. And at that time, 20 years ago, he just had a kid. And he was given some experimental therapy. 20 years later, John is still alive. He's like this medical freak in the best of ways. And he has just come out with a memoir called An Exercise in Uncertainty, a memoir of illness and hope about how to literally live with an incurable disease for the past 20 years. So it's a little bit different. We're going to have some hopeful news for the next 45 minutes. I'm going to have John on. And then, because I'm a glutton for punishment, at 4 o'clock, Leland Nally is going to come on. Leland Nally did amazing investigative pieces for Mother Jones. He called every single name in Epstein's Black Book. That Leland Nally will be joining us at 4 p.m. So Allison, come back and listen to that. And if you want to jump on with Leland, please, I'll have you on. So folks, join Mueller, she wrote, join Daily Beans, and come back literally in 2 minutes to have a hopeful conversation with John Gluck. Thanks, Allison.
Thank you. It's great to see you.
Take care, everyone, and rest. You're losing your voice, for the love of God.
Yeah, right.
Daily Beans is off on Saturday, right?
Yeah, but we do have refried beans where I play an episode from that day several years ago, so we can see how far we've fallen.
Just rest your voice. All right, take care, everyone. See you in 2 minutes.